Hi, welcome to On the Couch Conversations with Muki. Today I'm having a conversation with a very versatile woman, a woman that has inspired me with the kind of work that she does. I'm talking to Ms Sume. Welcome to Ms Sume.
Thank you, Muki, for the invitation.
Thanks for accepting the invitation. Ms Sume, I've known you for a few years now as the Dean of Education, and when I walk into your school, I find warmth, but with any person who has achieved so many things in life, there's somewhere where they've begun.
Yes.
Can you just take me through your life? Who are you? Where are you from?
I am Ms Sume, who grew up in New Brighton, Port Elizabeth, with 5 siblings from parents that never went to school, but who inspired us to love education and to stick it out with education. And, growing up, we were very close because it was a 2-bedroom house. So we had to be close. Wow. We know each other's marks. Because the brother occupied the other one, and then the girls in those double banks. And it was always laughter in the house growing up, and we were also helping each other with education. And so from a very young age, we were taught to be responsible. Because I remember when I was in Charleston, where I am principal,
wow.
Yes, I used to have the house keys because I was coming earlier than anybody else. So that gave me a sense of responsibility. And, it was fun. It was fun. We were not well off because my mother was a domestic worker and my father was a laborer working for the municipality at the town hall. But what I love about what they were doing is they gave us a sense of direction.
Wow. So you're saying that they were not educated, but here you are, educated as a school principal. So what is it that you've taken from their determination to educate you?
It's the fact that, they were coming from the rural areas firstly, from Alexandria. So, they, from their families, they were the ones that came to Port Elizabeth and to make it. And they wanted us to make sure that we surpass where they are. And also my mother, surprised me because she never went to school, but she would look into our books every day.
Wow.
And if you have a red cross, it means you did not listen to the teacher. And you were going to be in for it.
Yes.
So it's that kind of a person. So we were forced to make sure that every day we do our homework. And if you got a beating at school, you would get another one at home. Wow. Because it means you did not respect. So it's values that we were taught from a young age. And we still live by those.
Wow. You're talking about New Brighton. How was it, growing up in New Brighton? And I hear that you also had a red stoop that every child, African child growing up in the township had, and it meant so much to us, differently. So what did it mean to you?
New Brighton has changed now because New Brighton used to be like a close-knit community. And there was a competition of those red stoops. And my mother, being a very neat person, every day we would make sure that we clean that stoop. You put in porridge. We made our own porridge to make it take longer. So we used the candles and paraffin, mix it with the red stoop polish. And New Brighton. I remember during December. For the 25th, we would get out, and all the women in that we have in a cul-de-sac. Yes. We lived in a cul-de-sac, so the women would cook, and they would place the tables outside, and the families would enjoy the food. That was New Brighton, but that has changed now. And when there is a death, they would go and help and cook, and they would donate money to make sure they contribute. That was New Brighton. And also living in Mendi. Mendi was the main street of New Brighton.
Everyone knows about that.
Yes. So obviously when you say you are living in Mendi, people would, okay. Yes. Yeah. But I lived closer to the bar. The New Brighton bar now, that is an arts center. And I would watch people getting drunk. That was the one thing that I hated. And when during the 1976 riots, when it was closed, for me, that was a breather. Because it was not nice looking at adults, young people drinking themselves to death. And it was Hlukuhla at the time.
Wow, I still remember Hlukuhla.
Yes, and I remember there was a competition one time where people were drinking and they died.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Ms.
That was
Sume,
New Brighton.
I'm listening to you talking about the sense of community. Let's just go back there to the sense of community where the mothers come out, they cook. What lessons have you learned from there that you've taken into your principalship?
You know, at home, it was a free home. Everybody could come in. And my mother was that person that was always helping. And I grew up with that. So at school, I was, I was looking at these kids and looking at their backgrounds, looking at their challenges. And that came out that I need to also help. And I made it a point that I also include the community, because you can't be teaching the child divorced from the community. Yes. So my stance was, whatever I do, I have to include the community within the school. As a result, I ended up having so many parent volunteers at the school because I need their input. And when I started teaching, the first meeting that I had with my parents, I said my vision is to transform the school into an ex-Model C school. And I was looking into standards, comparing to what the township schools were known for, high failure rate, dysfunctionality. And so my vision was to make sure that we keep to those standards. And at the time, the grannies were the mothers, because it was the time of HIV and AIDS. So parents were dying, so grandmothers were looking after the kids, and they understood where I was coming from, and they were very much supportive, and we've been able to achieve so much with those parents.
Oh, you know, my heart is becoming heavy now. But I want to take you a little bit back, because I see parallels in my life and your life in terms of teaching. Because when I read your story, you talk of teaching, you know, playing teacher while you were still in primary school. Can you just take me through those memories?
You know, during those days, you never went far off from home. So my mother would encourage us to get our friends into our own house, and we would play. And we would play school. And obviously, being a little bit of a bully, I was always the teacher teaching those kids. And also what was happening at school is that when you finish early, they would use you to explain to other kids. So I was used to that one. And we would always mimic the teachers, because I was teaching not only in my voice, but in those teachers' voices. So if I was dealing with English, I would be becoming Ms Sandy. Because Ms Sandy was my English teacher. So I think that's where my love of teaching started. But at home also, we've been teachers. Because even my sisters that are now working at other places, they started with teaching. My brother is a doctor, but he started as a teacher also.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is good. I always wanted to become a principal. Yes, a teacher, but I knew in my life that I would become a principal. So when I look into your life and what you've accomplished as a school principal, I said earlier on, when I walk onto your school fields, you know, the school is a buzz, there's professionalism, teaching is taking place, there's community members. What, you know, I know you've spoken about, you know, why you were doing that, but I just want to know from you, if you can tell us a little bit about the kind of programs that you have in your school and what they mean to you, the teachers and your learners.
You know, when I came in 1998, the first challenges that I had at the school were gross infrastructure challenges. The school did not, we had water, was just a trickle coming out of the taps. But 5 years down the line, we just did not have any water at the school. And if you look at the buildings were dilapidated. So the first thing that I did was to make sure that, and also I was not part of the feeding scheme, because the school is closer to the middle class houses. So the funding model for the department, we were classified as a quintile 4 school. So I wasn't getting much money from the department, and going into the department to try and get help was a challenge. So I learned from an early age that, from the early days, that I need to just go forward and go out there. So I went out and I made partnerships with different companies, with different people. So like the water I got in 2014 from Coca-Cola. And for dealing with HIV and AIDS, we had a partnership with the University of Pretoria, where we went to the community trying to destigmatize HIV and AIDS, because parents were burying learners. When you know from grade 1 that they are positive, by the time they get to grade 4, the kids will start dying. So we had to do something about that one. Also, I was not part of the feeding scheme. So I had to go out and scout for food, to make sure that my kids were fed, because I knew from an early age that you can't teach them on empty stomachs. So that's what made me more, I think, conscious, because I also do home visits. So if a child doesn't come to school, I would go and check what is happening. And that's when you would find all these challenges that the kids were having. And also just having an open door policy for the kids. If they're having any challenges, they are free to come to my office, and I listen to them. Even if when they are brought in for misbehavior, I don't even start shouting at the kids. You bring them in, and the teachers were irritated sometimes to say, you listen to these kids a lot, but there's a reason for them to misbehave. So you need to understand those before you can even deal with the child. And when I saw that there was nothing else, then obviously they will be dealing with me.
The principal herself.
As the principal. But it's an open environment. And also I came in knowing that I don't know everything. So everybody has a reason to be there. So I needed a collectiveness. I needed to make sure that everybody's heard. And I came in with my vision, but I made sure that I listened to what the parents wanted. What was the vision for their kids? What are the vision for the teachers? And as a result, within 6 months into that school, the female teachers, they just took it and they decorated the staff room. And we had a beautiful place to sit. And that was the start of things. So every year we would sit, strategize, what are we focusing on? And then we'll take those on.
Wow. At some point I visited your school, and there's one program that really impressed me, the one that involved the grandmothers, coming into the classroom. Can you just tell us a little bit about that one?
We have a challenge with literacy at the school. And obviously with little budgets coming from the department, I cannot buy more books than what I've been provided for. So I needed to create some material for the kids to read. And we do have a library. So the books in the library are mostly English. So we lack Xhosa books. So I invited the parents to come in and tell stories to the kids. And they would sit there, tell stories. And it just went bigger than what I thought. Because I thought about, okay, we're going to type the stories and we're going to create booklets. And the kids, it would be material for the classes and the library. But the kids enjoyed it. And one of the grannies loves poetry. So she taught the kids poetry. And now they started writing their own poetry. And ICT guys, your students from the university, they saw a challenge and they said, but we can animate these stories. And they started animating, teaching, because we've got coding at the school. We are also doing robotics. It's one of the programs that we are doing. So they took it further, and they are animating. And the grade 2s were introduced to the animated stories. Now that's a nice link. And what I like is that it's the kids' work. And I'm looking forward to, it's a pity that COVID-19 happened. Because I thought by now we would have created a book for the grannies to leave behind.
Wow.
And I still want to do that. Even if I go on bench in a Charles Tuna, I just want to do that so that the grannies can say, this is my work.
Yes.
And the kids can say, I did the transcriptions of those stories. I did animation of those stories. Who knows, we can put it online and they can be accessible to everybody else. So that's the vision. That's the kind of school that I want. I don't want to teach kids about the locust. They're not going to do anything about the locust.
Yes.
You want kids to be given skills that they can use in their future in life.
Wow.
So if you're teaching the locust, how are they going to use the locust?
Profound. And what a legacy, especially in terms of the community within, the school. Let's just go to your personal life now. What would you say has been the most defining moment in your life?
One most defining moment was 2011. I had goats. And that was very much challenging for me because I thought, cancer. And there was a family member that had cancer from my mother's side. And fortunately for me, it was too early. So I had 2 operations in one day because the growths were in my cervix and they were in my breasts. So I took everything off. And from then on, I was free. And I knew that God was with me.
Yes.
And I said, I'm doing okay. I'm doing His work.
Yes.
And He's giving me life so that I can continue. That was a profound moment for me.
And so would you say that moment then, as you are saying, was a profound moment and made you look at life differently?
Yes, definitely. Because now I knew that I've been given a second chance to make sure that I touch so many more lives. I've given a second chance to create more opportunities for more kids. And that's what I'm living for, is to create opportunities for these kids. So that they look into their lives, they look into their backgrounds, they know they can make it. And I'm always telling them, I was a student sitting here, attending the very same school, sitting in these desks and these classes, and I'm here. So they need to surpass me.
Yes.
Because that's what I'm always telling them. And fortunately for myself, I always make it a point that I teach life orientation and life skills.
Okay.
So that we can talk about life.
Yes.
Because as Black parents, we don't talk openly to our kids because sex is taboo.
Yeah.
Talking about your own family and your circumstances, we like to hide things. I let them run and talk about their lives so that we can co-think how to deal with life.
Yeah, what a blessing you are. And what a role model for your learners to have. Let's now talk about the accolades that you've received. Excellent teacher, being a chair of a board that's associated with the university. What do these accolades mean to you?
For me, it's validation that I'm on the right track. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not always looking for accolades because I'm not working for them. Receiving them gives a nice warm feeling, but I am not working for them. So I've won district, cluster, and provincial primary leader award. Came fourth in national eliminations, and the Reed Foundation. I was the best supporting principal for 2002. That was early on. And that also showed me that I was on the right track. Yes. So currently I'm working as the chairperson of the advisory board with you and all these, and with international scholars. I mean, that's a huge one because I don't regard myself as a scholar. I'm just a worker.
Oh, and I still need to talk to you about that because I talk to you every time.
I know you are trying to tell me I'm a walking scholar.
Yes.
But, when you are doing this work, you don't even think about scholarship. It's only now that I'm working with the university that sometimes when I'm doing something, I'm thinking, okay, this is something that is worth to be journaled so that I may use it.
Yes.
and I can share with others.
Exactly, so that others can learn from you.
it.
Now,
Yes.
coming to that point then, you've been a school principal since 1998.
98.
For a newly appointed school principal, with the challenges that we have in South Africa, what would you be, your advice to that principal?
Be grounded. Know exactly what you want to achieve. And also, don't be an island. Work with everybody. You are there to serve. Be in service of the people. Be in service of the kids. Everybody has a voice. Don't listen to your own voice, because sometimes you may be wrong. So listen to all these voices and make sure that you strategize, because life is not easy as a leader. Like currently, we are not well funded this year. And you know what we're doing? We are selling fat cakes at the school. So my office smokes of oil, it smells of oil. But at least we are making money to make sure that we survive. So you must strategize and be open to learning. Be open to learn from the challenges. And I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were not inspired by that conversation with Ms Sume, I'm inspired all over again. And there was a lesson there for each and every child in school. If you've left school, if you are a professional, for those who are aspiring to become leaders, because it's not just principalship, it's leadership. Thank you so much for your time, Ms Sume. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Muki, for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you.